OSHI NO KO, or My
Super Idol 的笑容
is a 2023 anime that is adapted from the 2020 manga that goes by the same name. Now, I am sure pretty much all of you have heard about this show. It blew up faster than the quiet kid's temper when Fat calls his My Little Pony figure lame. The only problem with this show blowing up so fast is that most people just look at the show through magic glasses that immediately negate any flaws they might see. We have one of these shows every single season, so this is really nothing new. And I will say this just for clarity, just because a show is overrated does not mean it is horrible poo-poo bad. It just means that people are giving it a bit too much praise due to it being all shiny and new. This is also a good point to mention that I will be talking about the manga that takes place after the anime, so if you don't want to be spoiled, here is your warning. Alright, so I actually think that the story started off pretty damn good. There is the crimson red flag that an adult doctor is infatuated with an underage idol, but at least he has a respectable reason to like said idol due to one of his deceased patients being a massive fan of said idol. It is still kind of weird though, but then again, it's anime, stuff like that happens all the time. But I am moving off track here. Like I said, the backstory of Gorou getting into the Ai Hoshino due to the tragic loss of this far too young patient, Sarina, is very compelling and does add weight to the story right away. It had at least got my attention from the very start. Later on, due to anime logic and the power of friendship, Hoshino ends up at Gorou's workplace to give birth to her twins. Obviously, since she was an underage idol by the way, no one was allowed to know that she got knocked up. Gorou almost shits and comes his pants when he comes to the realization that the Hoshino is going to stay at his hospital. When I summarize it as grown man gets a little too excited as pregnant underage teen idol comes to his hospital to give birth, it suddenly sounds like the headline of a degenerate porno film. But as Ai stays at the hospital for care and treatment, she befriends Gorou and wants him to deliver her children because she trusts him. Credit has to be given to Gorou because he actually does stay pretty professional throughout this entire endeavor. As he walks outside, he notices a weirdo walking around the hospital grounds. He chases the individual but gets outplayed due to a skill issue and gets yeeted off a cliff. When he opens his eyes, he just got birthed by Hoshino. And so begins the story of Hoshino Aquamarine, whom I will just call Aqua because that name is ridiculous. Skip forward a few good years where Aqua and his sister Ruby live a pretty normal and good life. Until Ai gets outplayed and has to join the queue to respawn where she encounters a server error and gets disconnected. From this point on, the series just takes a massive turn for the worse, at least in my opinion. Aqua just turns into this incredibly annoying edgelord. He just starts using everyone around him to fulfill his plans for revenge, and every chapter this guy just gets more and more edgy and more depressing. He sometimes seems to forget that he has the mind of an adult man inside of him. He starts dating some teenage girls, which would be fine if he did not have the mind of an adult. I swear I have seen people defend this with their lives, but no, just no. Aqua just tosses all morals out of the picture, and just because his mom/waifu/addiction regrettably met an untimely death at the hands of an unknown assailant. I mean, obviously this is something that would affect anyone, especially if the victim is someone you knew or close to you. I'm not shitting on Aqua here because I don't get the fact that the writer wanted him to be traumatized after said event. I'm shitting on Aqua because instead of using the resources he has at his disposal due to the connections he made during his previous life, he just makes plans to shoot a movie about Ai's life which could be easily received as fiction or just disliked in general. Why not contact your previous workplace comrades, family, acquaintances, etc. Tell them something only Gorou could possibly know, get publicity, and just draw out the killer that way. But no, obviously you have to shoot a movie that would depict Ai's life. I just feel like the writer deliberately dumped Aqua down to force that plot through because that way he can involve his sister Ruby more in the plot. Ruby wants to become an idol like her late mother. The reason Ruby is so obsessed with her mom is that she is also a reincarnated person. Ruby is the patient of Gorou that died before the story began. Serena was a massive fan of Ai and the group and ended up being reincarnated as Ruby. Another thing that just pisses me off is that they still haven't talked to one another who they were in their past lives. Like, not once have they had the conversation pop up. How ridiculous is that? But whatever. At this point, I just started to lose interest altogether. I'll be straight up honest there. After they just neglected that plot point, I just started to lose interest. But Aqua eventually launches his plan to release said movie and publicly reveals the secret that Ruby and him are Ai's kids. Ruby gets triggered beyond belief at this fact and the roles just switch. Now Aqua becomes the more normal guy whilst Ruby becomes the edgelord. As of right now, the manga is still ongoing, with Ruby wanting to fulfill the role of Ai in the upcoming movie. That's the current plot and the current saga of the manga. You know, I have been pretty negative throughout this video. The reason for this is that I really just wanted to break that perfect picture that a lot of people have obtained through watching the anime with those perfect rose-colored glasses. But not everything about the show is bad. In all fairness, the show is pretty good, just not as good as people make it out to be right now. The animation is immaculate, you won't hear me complain about that. The story is pretty good too altogether. The one thing that just ruins it for me is the direction that the story took. Instead of watching a revenge story where the protagonists just make dumb decisions while seemingly forgetting the knowledge from their past lives, I would have loved to see more focus on them figuring out who they were in their previous lives. Just like how I would not have wanted them to get consumed by revenge, I would have preferred to see the two of them focus on giving Sarina, or Ruby, the life she was never able to live when she was a terminally ill patient. I wanted to see Aqua and Ruby have fun with everyday life whilst also still grieving their mother, of course. It would be very unnatural for there to not be some resentments toward the untimely death of their mother, but I would have preferred a subplot of the adults conducting the investigations instead of Aqua and Ruby. Having those two plots move alongside one another and eventually intersect would have been a better road for the story to take, but then again, the story is not finished yet, so we should still give the story a chance. I'm just not as interested anymore. I feel like they kind of missed their opportunity to make the story perfect, but you know, who knows how, what kind of twists or turns the story will take. Maybe I will regret making this video in the future, but right now I do feel like it's just a tad bit too overrated. To finish things up for this video, once again, I don't think the show is bad at all. I just think people are putting it on a pedestal where it should just not belong. It's good, but it's not that good. This has been me ranting about an anime. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.